If you're talking about the legacy that a film will leave behind, earlier you either had to own a DVD of the film or you had to wait for it to come on television. Today it's available 24/7 throughout the year on a platform. The ability for that film to live on is therefore that much more.
Yeah. Hindi filmmaker has always been at a distinct disadvantage because we always were trying to make films for everybody, for this entire country, and in many cases, a lot of the people who gravitated to the Hindi film industry were not native Hindi speakers. We came to make films in Hindi because this is where we would be able to make films for the whole country.
When I was shooting Stree in Chanderi and the cook was watching Telugu film dubbed, and I was like, I couldn't even place the film. And he said, oh my God, these are amazing. We all watch these films. These are the only films we watch. So I realized the popularity with which they had spread everywhere, especially Telugu films.
Over the last 20-25 odd years, Hindi cinema invented a version what they called the multiplex cinema.
Yeah.
Then they invented the urban NRI Indian. Then that soon became referred to as Bandra to Juhu. And so it became that kind of storytelling.
Kiran, Sid, Sameer, Raj, welcome to the THR India Roundtable on the last 25 years of Indian cinema. I'm really thrilled to have the four of you because between the four of you, there's like decades of storytelling experience. You've all done so much and such excellent work, so thank you for that. We're going to look at what's happened like in the last 25 years, also a little bit of what we hope will happen. And the key reference for this conversation is a report by IMDb, which sort of deep dived into these 25 years. And it's fascinating. They analyzed 130 films. They did a ranking of the top 5 films of each year, according to their all-time IMDb page views. So it's a kind of a unique barometer of audience interest and popularity and how trends have shifted. And that's what we'll sort of take our data from. First, I want to talk about the evolution of stardom because so much of our cinema is propelled by stars. And the numbers are just really interesting. Okay, so in the report, from 2000 to 2004, Shah Rukh Khan's films topped the charts. He starred in 8 of the 25 top movies in those years. In total, over these 25 years, he has 20 movies, in these top. Wow. Amir and Hrithik have 11 movies each, but in the last 5 years, there are 23 different male leads in this top 25, with only Prabhas, Allu Arjun, Surya and Vijay having more than one hit each, which tells us that stardom is no longer a sustained phenomenon. It's the sands are shifting much, much quicker. And you've all done work with massive, massive stars. So I want to get your sense of what you think is happening. Sid, can we start with you?
Sure. So the numbers that you just reeled off, Anu, tells me more than just the fact that stardom is not sustainable. What it tells me is stardom has been democratized to a large extent. It's not the preserve of only a few top superstars as it used to be in the past. And the gap between them and the rest of the stars was really so significant because what you just reeled off on Shah Rukh and Amir and Hrithik is quite telling. That's one, which is a good thing, which means that the love is being spread.
Correct. They're more.
Right? They're more.
Yeah.
And I think the second thing is obviously the rise of the pan-Indian star from the South, which is quite tremendous. I mean, when you look at those names, the 4 names that you mentioned that have, sort of come up in the last few years, they're all from the South.
Yep.
And I guess that's a great sign because that means that we're not only looking at from a pan-Indian perspective, it being only Hindi movie stars that traditionally have shown up in, the top 5 films every year. The second thing is probably this points to the fact that so-called content-driven films have now got more of a window into being able to feature in the top 5. Because if it's not all about the stars, it's about the kinds of movies that are featuring in the top 5, and that's across stars. It means that the need to have a star in a film might probably have reduced to a certain extent as well. And for that film to be able to make the kind of impact to land up in an IMDb top 5. So I only see it as a good thing.
As a good thing. What about the rest of you?
I actually agree with Sid, and I think what's interesting is that it stopped being all cult of personality, and it's really become about the film itself and what this star is bringing to the film, so to speak. So it's really exciting that there's so many more people now that people are interested to watch. And also when you think about it, the number of alternatives people have when it comes to consuming anything. The stars are now YouTube stars. The stars are on many other platforms. So when you look at the number of followers that a film star has versus a model even, or somebody who's just a stand-up comic, it actually is not that different. So really, I think the notion of stardom has changed, and it's no longer a fixed thing. It's what you're bringing to the table, how much you're engaging with your audience, how interested they are in what you're doing. So that whole old school, we were talking about it earlier, but like the temple building culture, which was all about the persona of a person, has changed a little bit, I think, and for the better.
You guys also think it's a good thing?
Well, stardom is about, I mean, all these guys have been stars. Amitabh Bachchan is still a star.
Absolutely.
Right? And so I think for me, stardom is about longevity, about how long people stay. So what you have today is you have a lot more fireflies, right? So there's a lot of immediate stardom and immediate demise. A lot of that happens. And within that, I think even the younger stars, even the YouTube stars, anywhere you go, there are famous people. Everyone gets their 15 minutes of fame.
Yeah.
I think stardom is about getting 15 years of fame or 30 years of fame, a body of work. So I think even for a new generation of stars who have arisen now, which is good because there's so much more social media, there's so many more avenues to become famous. There are cooks famous and people doing strange things who are famous. But all of that fame is transient, it's fleeting. And I think real stardom comes out of being able to create a body of work and maintaining and holding on to that attention and that attraction and that fan base for a longer period of time. So, I mean, I think we are seeing one phase of stardom. We'll see another phase of stardom.
But you think it'll endure? Like the enduring stardom will endure?
For the ones who have to endure, will endure. I mean, if you take now with all the modern tech, I was just thinking about that Rajnikant is the kind of star who in real life has become an old man. And on screen is that, that dashing guy with that head full of hair and, all those crazy things. And he coexists. His fans, see the same old man outside the theater and then go in the theater and see him with blonde hair
loudly.
and dancing and are happy with that.
Yeah.
So they are able to completely dissociate the two people. Yeah. So I mean, I think it endures. I mean, if you make it endure, it'll endure.
Raj?
I'm glad it's not a superstar-driven film industry anymore because, I mean, I used to watch first day, first shows. I used to go midnight shows. I used to watch all kinds of movies.
You've been the crazy fan?
Not the fan. I was with the fans. But I wanted to experience the whole atmosphere. Even earlier as a student, and I used to wonder, after 3-4 films, I used to wonder, it's the same film. And it's not a good film. And I'm still going there because it's a superstar. And they're still making the same films because it's a superstar, because that's what everybody expects that. So I could see the stagnancy years ago as audience, and I was thinking, wow, I mean, I wish, and then I find a good film that doesn't have a star in it, and it's a great film, and you're affected by it, and you're hoping, where do I find more of these? So I'm just glad as a movie watcher that it's not always a story built around a star, because there are too many parameters. He has to have a great entry, he's got to have songs, he's got 3 women, heroines and all that stuff. So the template was so obvious that I just wanted more films, for everyone for that matter. So if you take that out, they can exist at the same time. Every kind of movie should exist together. There should be great superstar films that you can go and have fun, celebrate, whistle, throw coins and balloons, and watch it in the euphoria. And there should be other films too. It was just that the money was all spent mostly on just them. So like you said, democratization has happened. Superstardom is now, it's spread amongst whoever can, and everybody can be a superstar for that film. If the film works, great, superstar for that film. Maybe the film itself is a superstar at that point. So I'm good that it's all going that way.
You know, for me, the happiest takeaway from the report is actually the rise of the superstar director. Right? I have a soft spot for directors.
I wonder why.
And I just think that it's so exciting to me that, and we've always had them, right? Yash Chopra, Mani Ratnam, they were directors who were marquee names. People would go into a theatre to see whatever they had created. But what the report is showing is also, and we're seeing that in terms of just box office collections, like also this director-actor combination, right? So you talked about Rajinikanth Sami. So it's Rajinikanth and Lokesh Kanakraj get that insane weekend opening, right? Or Sujit and Pawan Kalyan, for they call him OG. Raj, you and DK have always created very specific signature films and shows. I mean, Kiran, you've made 2 films, but I already feel like I have a sense of what a Kiran Rao film is. Do you sense that there might be an interest, of course in stars, but also in the distinct worlds that people like you are creating?
Absolutely. I think which is what I was trying to say earlier. It's people are actually now interested in what you make. And while I think stardom or the presence of a big name actor would help a project, I think people gravitate towards a certain voice, a certain kind of storytelling. They may for instance, there's, like you said, Raj and DK have a certain brand of filmmaking. People will turn up to see whatever they make. And I think that comes from the fact that we have such a heterogeneous audience. There's a niche for pretty much every kind of storytelling within our country. May not hit the same metrics of super hits, etc., or whatever at different points. But I think the world building really attracts people. They are now actually engaging with, sort of worlds that are being built all over the other parts of, the world. Like you'll have stories coming out of Mexico and stories coming out of China, which people are all excited about. They're watching Korean shows. So I think world building is everything. And directors' signature sort of, I think, voice and grammar in storytelling is what people appreciate. I feel audiences have really evolved to a point of knowing what they like. So, which is why I feel this whole cult of personality is going to be diluted, because people are not only interested to see the star, they're interested to see what they're going to do with that stardom. And like Samir said, the body of work finally is what makes them a star. What have they done over the years? For instance, in that IMDb report, so many films in the top crossover hits were what Amir had done. And actually, he'd taken so many of the risks that many people would have considered disastrous and not something you would age yourself and become an aging wrestler, Yeah. But people are interested to enter that world. They want to see what you're doing with your stardom, I think that's kind of where things have shifted.
Raj, do you feel optimistic for directors?
I do. Especially at this time, I do feel the creators are. I'm very optimistic for the creators because they're the ones who are creating the cinema at the end of it. It's not, like I said, it's not made for a person. They're making it, and so you like their world, you like how they're doing a film, and people will come to it. And it's now the cooler thing is that it's become a bigger audience. Like the audience have suddenly become all over the country, right, and beyond. It's not just Hindi films being watched by Hindi people, and so it's everybody. So you can pick a really cool Malayalam director and say, hey, I want to watch his film that's coming up. So I just like the fact that there are so many favorites now that, you can pick from any part of the country and you can watch. Yeah. So yes, of course. And it is heading more and more that way, that who's making the film, what kind of film, or even in a broader sense, it's a Telugu film. I'm going to watch it because it's going to have all this cool stuff. Even the report said that genres are like Telugu genre, Tamil genre.
Yeah.
So yeah, in every which way, there is an attraction that's pulling the audience to watch that film. So yes.
A couple of years ago, speaking of Amir and being a wrestler in Dangal, a couple of years ago, Rana Daggubati had said to me that now for theatrical, it's go big or go home. right? Like it has to be this giant spectacle thing that will bring audiences in. Otherwise, it's on streaming. But the truth is, Sayara showed us that that's not true, right? Two newcomers, this feverish old school, love story will bring everybody back in. Do you feel like with Hindi cinema, we're just not making enough varieties? Like no one's making Dangal, right? Or a Heather, which you co-produced. Like those kind of films, is there enough variety happening, or are we all just in the go big zone?
I don't quite agree with the go big or go home theory. I think definitely
You never bought into that.
No, there's no doubt that spectacle draws audiences in as well. Well-told spectacle is absolutely, the sort of cinema that will draw audiences into theatres. But like you said, when you just look at this year, you had Chava, which of course was a spectacle, but it didn't have a superstar in it. It had a young, upcoming star in it. It did incredible business. Sayara with complete newcomers. You have Mahavatar Narasimha, right? Which again is animation, which most people in India said, animation just doesn't work. That was like a global truth,
Correct,
right?
yeah. Correct.
You had Demon Slayer doing almost 100 crores, right?
Yeah.
And then you've had all kinds of films working, which I think what it tells us is that audiences want a very compelling experience. Now that experience can make them, it could be horror, it could be a tortured love story, it could be a nationalistic film, it could be spectacle, but they don't want something that they can easily consume at home. They want to go to a theatre to be able to have that collective intense experience where they either are laughing or they're crying or they're getting completely scared out of their wits. So something is happening that gives them that cathartic feeling.
Right.
Could be a slapstick comedy.
Right.
I'm deliberately not saying a slice of life comedy,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
But something that makes them feel very intensely. And that opens up the number of things that you can do, therefore, as far as theatrical is concerned.
Yeah, Samir? Feel intensely for theatres?
Yeah, you know what I think? I think the industry beats itself up too much about, we've lost the plot and we are no longer doing this and no longer doing that, and where have the great people gone and why is everyone
Hindi
doing
film
this?
industry.
The Hindi film industry. I think if you look at any year, forget these 25 years, if you go back to 50 years, every year has its 3 or 4 big spectacle films, of which 2 will flop and 2 will succeed. You will have your outlier hits that become big hits. You will have your really sweet, nice, small story that goes on to become a big hit. You'll have a whole truckload of heartwarming movies that flop. You will have so many things that happen. And every year it's the same thing, right? In the year that Naseeb released was the year Jaane Bhi Do Yaaro happened, right? And if you go tracking back, you'll see that happening, right? Every year. So I don't think, even this year, as you said, that this year already we've seen in 25. I think what's happening is that audiences have always liked variety. Audiences, relish that variety. They look for different things to happen. It's different moods, different times. It's no one size fits all. And which is why many times a big superstar movie bombs, because it ticks all the boxes and still doesn't work. And many times a really small movie that is unsuspecting succeeds, because audiences know best. कहते हैं ना कि public सब जानती है.
Correct.
तो public truly सब जानती है.
Yeah. But you feel that we are making enough variety, just
I
in
think
terms
so.
of,
Across, if you look at across, and now with streaming coming along, the good thing that's happened is that streaming has allowed all the different languages to be placed next to each other. So in the old days, if you remember with TV, what happened is that if you had to see, suppose you say, go and watch this Malayalam film, then you got to go and ask a friend, somebody's got to give you a DVD, or you got to go to that theatre in Apsara or that in Aurora. There are so many moving parts here. Now it's on Netflix. It's right next to, the Hindi movie and this. So that's opened up. Audiences have become even savvier. You have so many people who talk about these movies now with much knowledge and taste, and which is a good thing. You're watching foreign stuff, you're watching Indian stuff, you're watching language stuff. So I think variety is a reality in our life.
Yeah. And look, the big, you're saying the Hindi film industry beats itself up too much, but there might be some reason that it should. Okay. Now look at the data, because the ascent of the South is a very real thing. From 2005 to 2014, there are only 5 South films in the top 5. By 2022, 4 of the top 5 are not films in Hindi. Okay, this is the year of KGF Chapter 2, Kantara, RRR, and Vikram. From 2015 to 2024, 19 of the 50 films in the top 5 are from the South.
Right.
So clearly there is a shift of artistry, of interest, of just, exciting the audience. And one of the reasons that again, conventional wisdom that keeps coming back is, oh, Hindi cinema has become too urban, right? That we're talking to just people like us, and we're not actually connecting with the heartland. And the truth is, the biggest Hindi hit in India, Dangal is, if you take, abroad, the foreign grosses as well. But in India, the biggest Hindi film ever is a Telugu film called Pushpa, right? It's the dubbed version of Pushpa the Rise. So, Sameer, you've just made a terrific Tamil film, Bison. When I saw that, I felt like every frame felt authentic and rooted. And here was a artist, Mari Selvaraj, telling a story that he knew intimately. Do you think we see enough of that in Hindi cinema? How do we get this rooting, storytelling, all of this back?
See, I tell you what, it's actually quite simple. In Hindi cinema, what happened is, and it's happened, I think the report also says that it's been spoken about a lot. It's just nothing new. Is that over the last 20, 25 odd years, Hindi cinema invented a version what they called the multiplex cinema.
Yeah.
Then they invented the urban NRI Indian. Then that soon became referred to as Bandra to Juhu. And so it became that kind of storytelling.
Yeah.
And it did well for the time that it was doing well. What was also happening at that time, which also explains a lot of the success of South India, is that at that time TV was growing in India. So while, I always say that the difference between Kyonki Saas Bhi Kabhi Bahu Thi and Kabhi Khushi Kabhi Gum is essentially the star cast. Because otherwise it's the same thing. It's the same. We just took some 2,000 episodes to say it and they did it in 2.5 hours. So what happened is that TV grew, and with TV also what grew was the South Indian dubbed movie, specifically Telugu. When you talk about the success of South Indian cinema in North India, it's primarily Telugu. It's not Malayalam, it's not Tamil. Kannada, a couple of hits, but mainly Telugu. So Telugu cinema has actually been very big in North India for dubbed. There used to be a movie called Indra the Tiger, which every time we had a ratings dip, we play Indra the Tiger. Right? It's an old trick. You just play Indra the Tiger, you get a spike and get on with life. So this has been built up over time. So I suppose what happened in a way, what you're saying is right, is that if Hindi cinema, and there have been in parts, like there have been individuals. Dangal is very rooted.
It is.
It's a heartland film.
Yeah.
There were.
But Dangal was 9 years ago.
No, I'm saying even now you take Chhawa technically is, no wonder is doing all that, right?
Yeah.
So there are these movies that come, that Kashmir Files came. They have stories to tell, some are propaganda, some are not, but either way they have stories to tell. But a lot of these movies, and Telugu movies in particular, are like that. If you take Bison, you see in Bison is, they've gone and stood in fields in knee-deep water, and apparently there were snakes in the water and no one told them. So thank God we are here to talk about it. So
That turned out all right.
I think it's types of movies. It's types of movies to be made. Maybe we don't make enough of it. Maybe there's everyone talks about having that lived-in experience, that authenticity. Maybe there's a breed of filmmakers today who don't have that. But it changes. We're doing enough of that on streaming. We're doing it in the series. The series are very authentic. Series are being made with a real sort of, mass appeal, so to say.
But Kiran, one of the reasons Lapata was so loved was also because there was that authenticity. It felt like it came from. So when you look around you, do you see this loss of, sort of rootedness and all this, what is it, Bandra mythology?
Bandra to Juhu.
I don't know, that's what they say.
Yeah.
I live in Bandra, I worry.
I feel somehow, and this is debatable, but I feel like the Hindi filmmaker has always been at a distinct disadvantage because we always were trying to make films for everybody, for this entire country. And in many cases, a lot of the people who gravitated to the Hindi film industry were not native Hindi speakers, for instance. We came to make films in Hindi because this was our big mainstream industry. This is where we would be able to make films for the whole country. But most of us who make Hindi films are speaking in English. We come perhaps not from some rooted Hindi culture ourselves, which does not mean that Lapata feels, like you said, rooted, authentic. So it doesn't mean that you necessarily need to, come from UP and be living in a village to be able to make a film about something there. But there was a sense of trying to make films for a more generic, broad public versus someone, say, in making a film in Kerala knows that lived experience inside out can, sort of very easily channel that into their filmmaking. And I feel sometimes Hindi films have suffered for that. But I do think that hits and misses are there across the board, and I don't think that just because these films are from the South are doing well, they're necessarily because, they're so much more authentic or anything like that. Films are good, films are not so good, and I think filmmakers often get it right and sometimes they don't get it right.
Yeah.
And I think Hindi cinema, because now of having been knocked off its pedestal a little bit with the sort of, intense competition we have now within our own country, it's amazing because we are now held up to a higher standard ourselves. We have to bring our best game on. And yeah, we just have to make better films. I don't think it's necessarily because they're not making films for a rural audience or, and I do think that we shouldn't be doing it. If that's not our natural calling, filmmakers should make films that appeal to them first, and then they're bound to find their audience wherever, they are.
Sid, do you have a sense of this, that because it's been knocked off the pedestal a little bit, people are trying harder? Is that true?
I think there's something to be said for the ambition of the South films, right? And I think that also stems from the fact that a lot of their sources of funding are not corporatized sources of funding. And therefore, there is a certain level of a devil-may-care attitude when it comes to budgets also.
Which used to be in Hindi
Which might
cinema.
have been the case earlier in Hindi cinema. And those were obviously the grand successes and the grand failures.
Correct.
The times
You
of
always
those.
heard na ki ghar bik jayega
Ghar bik
types,
jayega,
hai
all
na?
that, right? So there's definitely much more order, much more process, much more system that's come in with the corporatization of cinema. But I think what that might have led to a certain extent, is a lack of going for gold when it comes to some of those. Let's just take a punt on this and just go all in, right? When you look at what Rajamouli says about the budget he started Bahubali with to what he ended with, I think that would be very, very difficult to do in Hindi cinema today, given the structured sources of funding, right? So ironically, what's helped them there in terms of being
Is the
ambitious
chaos.
is some of the chaos when it comes to where they raise the money from.
Correct.
Right? Having said that, I think there is a way for us, once we realize that, to understand that there are times when there are some filmmakers and some ideas that might be very, very smart to go after and put all your chips behind, right? But I think for that, it takes single person driven decision making.
Not committees.
Yes. And I'm not to knock committees. There's a lot of structure that comes with committees also. But I think sometimes what happens is taking that punt is not easy when you're answerable to a board, or you're answerable to the public or to a financial institution.
Yeah.
And I think in Sameer's career, he's done that so much.
Correct.
He's taken so many punts on things and done so well, and that I think comes from I fully agree. It's the actual creative energy that drives the project, and you are willing to take that risk, which I think maybe is missing in the Hindi industry a little bit.
Raj, you know Telugu cinema inside out. What's your sense?
It was always there. All these films were always there, even decades ago. All kinds of big films, masala films, mass films, spectacle films, all these were there. I think the streaming kind of opened the doors to say that, hey, you didn't know all these movies. That's how, and like he said, when I was shooting Stree in Chanderi, and the cook was watching Telugu film dubbed, and I was like, I couldn't even place the film. And he said, oh my God, these are amazing. We all watch these films. These are the only films we watch. So I realized the popularity with which they had spread everywhere, especially Telugu films. So they were always there. We just started seeing them because it was placed in your living room now that you can access to. And suddenly we discovered, we're saying things like, I discovered Malayalam cinema during COVID. They were always there.
I'm embarrassed to say it, but yes.
It's like Columbus discovered America.
Exactly.
Fahad Fasal, oh my God, I discovered it.
So I'm glad that's what it is there. I also feel that one way of looking at it is this competition between these industries. The other way to look at it is that it's really no more of North and South film industries anymore. The way I see it is like one Indian film industry now. I'm sure some people who love Pushpa won't even know what the language is in a small town somewhere. They won't even know. They'll say Kannada or Tamil or something. We don't know. But the point is, it's really from anywhere from the India. It's become like an Indian film industry in a way. There will be tussles between, South is better, North is better, and all that stuff. But it's really that is how I see it.
But Raj, do you have a sense that, like Kiran said, that this spark, this kind of craziness, this creative passion, like let's play for broke?
Correct.
Do you sense that missing?
Of course. I mean, I'm experienced. I have experienced the restraints, the whole problems in which when you have to deal with a bunch versus you. Hence, I've realized a few years ago how we started DK and I, that we should make our own films. We fund our own films. The first couple of films were that. We just put our money, friends' money, make the film you want to make. And then once you start making bigger films, now you need other people's help. And that's when things start to happen. Things start to, it's not about meddling. It's just that I feel when you feel you have a unique story to tell, I won't put myself like a unique voice, but I'm saying a unique film to tell. You are the only one who knows it. The marketing guys also come up and says, this is how I would sell it. And I'm saying that's not the film. That's not the trailer. We shouldn't do it that way because, stick to it. And we haven't made films that would not, people won't understand, not too many people will not understand it. These are all
accessible.
films. They're accessible.
Yeah.
I would say even our most indie film like Shore in the City, if you play it to anyone, I feel like they'll enjoy it, they'll understand. There's nothing not to understand. It's just that they don't have the familiar faces, the packaging. That's all there is to it. Or her films for that matter. Put it out there. Once you start watching it, you'll love it. Yeah. So, yes, Telugu, there is a go for broke because there's one person sitting. It's just individual producers saying that I'll fund it. Do what you want. He's not even interfering with it. How did Rajamouli build its legacy? He didn't get 500 crores for Bahubali to make overnight. He made each film to prove that he could make this. And so now the producers are saying, I'll borrow from everybody and put the money for you. So there is that going on.
Yeah.
But having said that, at least for us, DK and I still don't really believe in spectacle films, that we should make spectacle films. DK
For the two of you.
For the two of us.
Yeah.
Because it's just too much. There are too many factors that come in. You will start to package. You will start to listen. You have to listen to many people. They have so many people. There are too many cooks that happen to it. We talk about films that worked, but there are so many big budget films that didn't work.
Yeah.
So, and that is awful. That's just so painful to do that. Go through 3-year journey and then nothing. So I believe in a film, a smaller film or a medium film, whatever you call it, that is apt for the budget but has high ambitions, so that can travel. So my biggest example is making a Bandra to Juhu film with happy ending, where half the film is in English and all the references are all kinds of urban references and very meta film. It's a meta rom-com about a rom-com and all that stuff. So we made it because it's fun and made it. And you see the audience who like it, really like it, but it's not for anybody else. For anybody else, they're looking at another rom-com saying, another Saif rom-com has come. So putting that aside, going and making a smaller film, saying, you know what, forget these big budgets, forget the money, forget the song and dances. Let's just make a film the way we used to. Put that film, let it be a group experience, because I can spend on spectacle. So banked on group viewing where you are laughing and getting scared at the same time. So that I had that in my head for a while, saying that is how you can make a film that can come into these top grossers too, but from a far side, from left side, coming in.
Yeah.
So that's what Stree was.
Right.
So I still believe and stick to that idea of making a film where it's feasible for everybody. Nobody's have to sell their houses, and you get to make a unique film. You have to now put all your eggs into the content basket only.
Correct.
That your story is the only thing that will work. So yes, and like 12th Fail and any of these films, they're all made like that. I believe in those films because they also give me a fresh film. So that's where I would go to.
Yeah. Nice. The other thing that's happened in the last couple of years actually is the sort of explosion of Indian films doing well abroad. Maybe explosion is too optimistic, but with Payal Kapadia's film winning big at Cannes, with Natu Natu winning an Oscar, there is like the recognition that Indian cinema and Bollywood are not the same thing. Right? The West has finally understood that Hindi cinema is just one part of a very vast filmmaking, incredible community, right? Kiran, your film was the official submission for the Oscars. You were in LA, you campaigned. What did you learn from that experience about this thing of making very authentic, rooted films, but that also work for a larger audience that's not necessarily just the diaspora and NRIs?
So the interesting thing when we went and tried to so-called campaign, which they don't like the word campaign and lobby when you're there. The
but
idea
it is.
It kind of is because nobody knows you and you're entering a wide open sort of maidan of people who are all actually deeply invested in the films that have already come now through the festival route and are actually on release. So awards are part of their release strategy. And it's all built into this ecosystem of distribution and release. So when you come in there, you genuinely do have to find your way. But what I did find was that in general, there is, thanks to RRR, there's just, like you said, a much more a bewilderment about India and what's the kind of stuff that's coming out of there, and the contrast between, say, All We Imagine and RRR as two films coming from the same country has really in some way opened up a perception about the kinds of things that we produce. There was, of course, a lot of interest in knowing what's coming out of India now, and we've seen so many successes. In the same year, we also had Santosh, we had Girls Will Be Girls, so many films, Nocturnes. So we've had a very sort of interesting variety of films that they've all sampled. Having said that, actually only RRR has ever entered in some way into a more broad mainstream perception or even like understanding, conversation.
Yeah.
Regular people, someone's hairdresser would have seen RRR. You know, someone randomly that you meet in a bar was like, oh, RRR. So they managed to do that, and a lot of that is intense marketing strategy, intense budgets and marketing strategy to get there. So one of the things you realize is that Indian films have always found their way through a diaspora audience because we naturally, you know, sort of people gravitated towards our films. We have such a huge population of Indians living everywhere. But in order to get past that hurdle and go into what is a mainstream film, you need money. You need to actually really bat for big time. And that I realized when I went to show my film somewhere outside LA, in a very small little town outside LA, and there were all the film kind of posters were coming up on the screen, and there were all these obviously big American films, and the only Indian film poster that came up was Pushpa. So I was like, wow, in this entire, it was
Silicon Valley.
Yeah, it was
Telugu country.
It was, yeah. I think it was in Santa Barbara or somewhere. I'm forgetting exactly where. But yeah, it was. So I'm saying, I think in order to actually become big internationally, it would be, strategy to get our films playing everywhere. I mean, RRR, when it went for the Academy, they had hoardings all the way down Sunset.
Yeah.
Each hoarding is probably 10 times the budget of any of our films, So it's not quite all it's, there are many, many factors, I think, that go into making our films successful there. And it'll be a journey, and I think films will find their way in different ways, either through awards, through, festivals, through an audience making it popular, like RRR was genuinely popular. They re-released and made $12 million on their re-release.
Yeah.
I think we're at a place where I think people are, like you said, that perception that it's only Shah Rukh Khan and Hindi movies are India has changed over the years.
Yeah, it used to be so much that. I remember going to the Marrakesh Film Festival like maybe 15 years ago, and everybody, like all the locals, were just besotted with Shah Rukh. And it was like, India? Shah Rukh.
At one stage was Amit ji, no?
Amit ji, yeah, it used to be India, Mr. Bachchan.
Yeah.
So tell me, to take this international crossover, which frankly you and I both know people have been talking about since Crouching
Forever.
Tiger.
Yeah,
है ना?
yeah.
Like since the early 2000s, there's this whole thing of when does an Indian
When do we
film-
have our Crouching Tiger?
When do we have our Crouching Tiger,
Yeah.
which was the first foreign film to make 100 million in the US, right? Is that, as a producer, is that something you think we need to aspire to, or does it just happen organically?
I think we need to aspire to it. I don't think you can backward construct it.
Correct.
It's very difficult
You
to do
can't
that.
reverse
And you
engineer.
shouldn't,
Yeah.
you shouldn't, because you'll be neither here nor there.
Yeah.
You've got to be rooted in something, and then if you realize the potential for that thing that you've created to be able to travel, and you've got the resources to be able to take it out to the world, then that's the holy grail, right? But to think that you can reverse engineer it, you can't. It definitely should be something that we aspire to, because if we had to be completely honest with ourselves, we haven't crossed over at all yet, right? We've had some very good festival runs. We've had RRR breaking out into, oh wow, have you seen this cool Indian film with that crazy song? And wow, I mean, it was a treat to watch, etc. But it hasn't broken into mainstream popular culture yet. You've had the odd lunchbox in Germany, and you've had a Dangal in China, and you've had a few of these green shoots emerging, but it hasn't really happened in the way that we like it to. We haven't had our Squid Game or our Parasite or our, Crouching Tiger, which we've been talking about forever. I mean, but again, it's got to be the right material. It's got to be that one thing that you feel has got that ability to translate universally. I mean, even with Dangal, it's not like we created it thinking that it's going to do $200 million in China, right? We knew we'd do a good release in China.
I read like 2,000 crores.
Yeah,
It did
it's
$1,300
$200 million.
It did
so,
1,300
yeah.
crores.
Yeah.
1,300 crores in China.
Yeah.
Wow.
Holy shit!
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
Secret Superstar did 700.
Yeah.
My God.
That's
In China.
incredible.
So I think obviously Amir had created a brand there for himself with Three Idiots and with PK and with all that.
Yeah.
PK had done 20 million when we released it there, and we thought, okay, we'll do 40 million with Dangal. But then when it went on and did what it did, we can't claim credit for having known it would do $200 million.
Correct.
It touched a chord.
Yeah.
There was something in the family dynamic that they felt was just like them.
Yeah.
Though it was this Haryanvi village. So
How amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you can only hope that the stars align.
But I honestly think, apart from hoping, and of course one has to do, as Sid said, have to make it from a place of like sort of genuine interest in what you're making. But it needs that kind of strategy and budget. We can never cross over. Like when you think of how international content does so well here, like how well Hollywood does here, how well Korean content is doing here, it's also on the back of a massive amount of marketing and a massive amount of spend to create the interest in those worlds. They're creating popular culture around it. Yeah. So it's not just about an individual film, which is why we can almost never do it. It needs to be backed with a sense of like, sort of, oh, what is this kind of food that they eat, and what
Like a
the
larger
kind of clothes.
thing.
It's a larger interest in that popular culture. Why is Demon Slayer doing so well here? Or even when we look at younger audiences and what they're watching, we're just not creating anything for audiences up to 18 that can match anything that they're making in Japan and Korea and anywhere, even in the US. We can't match it. So automatically our audiences are now ready to take content from anywhere else, but are not like, they're not willing to come into the theatre and watch a Hindi film often, because they're like,
It's not for me.
Yeah, it's not for me.
Yeah.
So it's strategy has to come in here. And as an industry, if we do want to compete on an international stage, it's not going to happen unless we have a sense of unity. There's a, sort of a body that actually has a plan, a vision for the
A larger
industries,
vision.
a vision for the industries of this country.
Yeah, yeah. I also wanted to just talk about women in Indian cinema, right? So in the report, Deepika Padukone is the one with the highest number of films at 130. She has 10 out of 130. And I see, especially actresses, sort of as such potent forces, at Cannes or at the Met Gala or with all these incredible foreign brands. And then I just feel like, are we leveraging women enough in the industry? Are we sort of this incredible power that female artists have? Are we doing enough with it? And that's a very open ended question, but what do you guys feel?
Well, we have, no, this is something we debate about. When a movie comes out, love story comes out, most of the time superstars are made from a love story. Their first film is a love story or a breakout love story. The hero, heroine, they call the simple terms of hero, heroine, both work. People are in love. And you are actually more in love with the girl too, if you look at the most population, because it's romance and innocence and all that stuff. But the bets are put on the guy over time. It's almost like he's built like a franchise, right? It's a pipeline that he's gone through, and you've build him up, and now he gets a lot of people into theaters. So you put a guy's name in, you get tons of it, and then you put a girl's name out there, like a leading girl of movies led by a female, and you don't get that much of box office. So for some reason, we haven't built them up over time, and you can't expect overnight to make a film, female-led film, and let it open. So that, I feel, has been underexploited, because it's at the end of it, it's that one person you're going to watch on screen that you love to watch. It shouldn't matter what the gender, and that's because of the pipeline has been off, like in the way they've been built have been off. So lately, as we write more and more, especially thanks to streaming, even earlier before that, as we write more women characters, you always realize there's much stronger story to be told if this character was a female versus a male. The complexities are so many more with a woman. So yeah, I mean, I see that as overall, we have really not put our efforts in creating female characters and female actors who, when you start off, you know what, let me make a film with her in the lead, that we don't think that way. We just take her and pair her up with 5 other heroes.
Yeah.
So hence, it hasn't ever been built. So that's my quick observation.
Well, actually, the thing with a reason for this has been that at a demographic level in India, women have always tended to stay at home. Don't go out after dark, don't go out alone, don't do that. So, in a sense, theatre-going audiences have been male-dominated. That's what drives tickets. You have family movies, obviously, but by and large, it's the guys who go out, which is why you would see that TV took to women in a big way. Indian television has been built, both South and North, has been built on female. It's not guys. There's no guys. That's why you can barely name a hero from television, right? And now streaming has done the same. So it's created more opportunities for a lot more other characters to come up. And as an evolution, cinema has been that way then. We've cribbed about this enough number of times that, women are essentially wallflowers and, cosmetic sort of adjuncts to the main story. It's been a function of how it's evolved. And it's I guess it will, as we produce more content, because I think streaming, a lot of the other movies that get made, a lot of stuff that happens, you're seeing lot more performances, lot more talent. We are working with such amazing actors.
And Loka did 300 crores,
and it's,
led by
times
a
are
woman.
changing.
Yeah?
Times are changing. So it will happen. But I think that's the sort of just the evolution of it.
Kiran, do you see a change on the ground?
I do think times are changing. And like Sameer said, I mean, one is the fact that women didn't get out enough, and women just do not have purchasing power themselves in most parts of the country. They don't earn their own money and often don't have the freedom to spend it the way they want. And so they have been a smaller number when it comes to theatrical audiences. And so films are led by men. I think that is changing and will change and needs to change. And I think as an industry, it's important that we all sort of take this on board and work on this intentionally and are a little more proactive about it, and not casual enough to say, actually it doesn't really matter, because ultimately it's they're coming to see the male hero. As stakeholders in the industry, it's just going to limit the kinds of films we make and the audiences, because you do realize that women do want to see themselves well represented in a film.
Yeah.
Why did Loka do so well? Why did Crew do so well? The reason is also that women are not finding maybe the kinds of films that they like to see. Whereas like for a love story, like you said, a whole number of women went to see Sayara. They are there. They are now a considerable number that can make or break your film. And you have to take that on board as a maker as well. And I think it should influence filmmakers and producers. And we should be creating, I wouldn't say stars, but creating talent among, young women, putting as much, behind them as we do behind our male stars, paying them commensurately, sort of encouraging women talent. It'll happen if the ecosystem also takes on board that it has been sort of off kilter and that we need to fix it. And I think it will follow. Women, like Deepika has done so well. Alia has such a massive following. We have amazing actors, but in some way, it's like filmmakers don't think that they could do a massive film with just a woman in the lead until now. So I think that wall is slowly going to get broken. And
I mean, my sense is it's actually good business. Sid, would you agree?
I'd fully agree with you. I think the only way to make this sustainable is, rather than imposing it on people, for it to become so commercially viable to do it that it just happens naturally.
Correct.
Right?
It's organic.
And I think it's organic. I think it's been a blind spot for filmmakers in the past because, like Sameer was saying, the culture has been for, you had one source of entertainment, men went in there to get their catharsis, they wanted to see themselves reflected on screen, therefore they needed a certain level of heroism, the woman was a prop in the film, and that's how our industry developed. But as society is changing and the role of women in society is changing, I think sometimes maybe entertainment takes a little while to catch up with that as well. And I think as female-oriented films are doing better and better, as you mentioned Loka, I mean, you've had over the last 10 years from a Dirty Picture and Kahani to a Tanu As Manu Returns, to a Piku, to a Gangubai, you've had enough examples of it having worked for this to be something that filmmakers should look at more and more, because it just makes more business sense.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
So, guys, the other, of course, developments of the last 25 years, one of the biggest ones is streaming, right? I love streaming. I love that it has helped us discover Malayalam cinema, just the ease and the variety of it. I love that it's created a space that's inclusive, for writers and for women and for actors who weren't getting a toehold into, the theatrical movies. But I always wonder, does streaming have the same impact on pop culture at large? Does it have that same, would you dress like a character from a streaming show? And, you've all made such amazing things. Raj, you and DK have sort of set the foundation of streaming in this country. What is your sense of this?
Streaming has done amazing for films and filmmakers,
Absolutely.
actors, everything. And I feel that theatres is a high, a rush. It's a first day rush. And streaming is where you love something. You stay with it, you live with it, you watch it again, or you discover later. So it's beautifully two different kinds of experiences, really. Pop culture, right. These days, if costumes aside, because I don't think any streaming show would break out into a popular costume. But it's really about internet memes and the talk and this and that. That you see the influence a lot. And also a show stays for many years, Family Man or Mirzapur, any of these series. You're watching them for like 10 years or 8 years actively between the seasons. So there is a lot of impact. I would say more than pop culture references, I think it's impacting filmmaking, that if I'm going back to making features now, I feel like I have spent a lot of time on our craft and our storytelling, and you can do way more. Earlier it was so limited. I used to I still remember writing screenplays for a commercial cinema, and I'm thinking, what else can I do here at this point? Maybe this is where you put a montage song, shit like that. So I'm like, oh my god, the climax has to be there. So now all the parties have to come and fight here. Big action set piece is there sitting on the board for a while. What happened? How do I get there? So all these things, you have broken them as creators, filmmakers. You worked different ways to create beautiful characters, moments, and all these things. So I feel the quality of cinema is being helped is because of streaming, because of even consuming series and any of these things. So I feel that is a bigger impact. I see it as a much bigger impact that you can see a film and say, bakwas hai. There's much better shows than this. So you better put a high quality film out there which match or better than this, because you're rushing on the first day. So I feel it's the quality is what the overall impact of streaming is. A larger impact, not the little things. Little things too. Yes, I still see Shrikant Tiwari memes and all that stuff, but that's just for fun. It's nothing really much to it.
Sameer, what's your sense? You've made such incredible stuff on streaming as well.
See, I think streaming is really good. It's good it happened because TV was long dead. They still insist it's alive, but it's dead. So it's good actually, because it's really and streaming allows so many things to coexist at the same time, improves the quality, tell better stories. No, we've not done this. We've never done premium television in India. So I mean, we were sort of doing premium television in the 90s, then Saas Bahu's arrived, and then I take full responsibility or credit for that. Then we sort of ruined premium television in that sense. So at least streaming brought that back. So storytelling is good with lots more people. I call streaming like IPL, where everybody gets to come and strut their stuff, whereas the movie business was really the Indian cricket team. So only 11 people in the team. So really tough. So now, at least this is so many more people participating and doing their stuff. So it's good. But just one thing about movies versus streaming is that there's a lot of talk now that keeps coming up often that, that theatres are dying and will soon be dead. And
but Ted Sarandos said that
and
earlier this year. He actually said,
if that happens, then we would have no use for theatres because you can just put it on streaming. So that's where I get a little sort of, I'm not entirely in agreement with that theory, because I think if theatres are dead, then movies are dead.
Right.
Because I can't imagine any streamer paying 1,000 crores for Dangal. Right? You won't start by doing that. Right? You can't pay for that. So then I think the movies and theatres and all of that, as he says, the quality of movies are improving. Because people are making better series, you're at least under some pressure that I'm not going to spend money to go and watch a crap movie when I can watch a good series. So at least the quality of movies will improve, storytelling, all of that. But I think one thing theatres do is they create that cultural moment. You manage to create that. Whereas what happens with streaming is it gets a little sprayed out. You don't have to see it today. You can see it tomorrow, day after, next week. I'll see it when I see it. So that little moment is there. And beyond that, I mean, movies are movies. It's a different format. It's a type of movie. It's made for a different purpose. Not everything can be a series. Not everything can be. And a lot of these movies that get made for straight to platform, in the old days, we used to call it straight to TV. Even before that, it used to be called direct to DVD.
Direct to DVD.
It's the one that that you can't make for the movies, so you make it direct to DVD. And
nahi chalega.
Nahi chalega, so mat batao. So straight to platform sometimes feels home video. Sometimes it feels like that. You feel that little thing. So it is that chance to get it out theatrically, make a movie. So I think there's a space for all of this. Like people keep saying that now social media has come and killed this, or that one's killed that. I don't think anything has killed anything.
Actually, social media has helped to create an afterlife for movies.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Which is one of the things in the report as well, that now there's sustained relevance. Right? Because of streaming, of course, because all these films are there for you to watch anytime. There's so much conversation on social media. Now there's actually re-releases and there's box office. You can make money like Tumbar did or Laila Majnu did. The film with the most sustained relevance is Gangs of Wasseypur. And I tried to get Anurag into this and he was like, don't talk to me about that film. Everyone only wants to talk to me about that film. But the truth is that there is an entire afterlife. So do you guys feel like, does that help as storytellers for all of you, as filmmakers for all of you, to know that, okay, if the first Friday doesn't work, there is a possibility. You know, there is a life that can still be attained. Or Sid, is it still first day first show?
No, I don't think it's first day first show anymore, honestly.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, of course, that has its value sort of commercially and for the financial, result of the film. But I think if you're talking about the legacy that a film will leave behind, you know, earlier you either had to own a DVD of the film or you had to wait for it to come on television. Today, it's available 24/7 throughout the year on a platform. The ability for that film to live on is therefore that much more.
Yeah.
Number one. Number two, I think when you talk about cultural relevance and pop culture moments, there are many fewer such moments given how fragmented our ecosystem has become, right? Earlier you had only movie theaters and you had one or two channels and therefore everyone was experiencing the same cultural moments together. Today you've got, when you look at the proliferation of mediums, an 18-year-old and a 50-year-old are in two different content universes altogether. They don't even know each other's references.
Yeah.
They have no clue. They have no shared cultural moments at all, right? And when you look at what's happening in the West because of the spread of streaming platforms, Stranger Things is a pop culture phenomenon.
Correct.
Game of Thrones is a pop culture phenomenon. The Crown was as well.
Yeah.
I think some of the shows created by people here, from Family Man to Scam, right, are cultural moments within a certain ecosystem.
Sure.
Right? When you look at Lapata Ladies and what it did on Netflix compared to Animal, that's a moment, right?
Yeah.
That's a cultural moment. So I think these things will happen more and more as the proliferation of these platforms gets wider.
Correct. The penetration is
the
not
penetration
there yet.
increases.
Yeah.
And it'll have a longevity because you're living across multiple seasons with those characters. And therefore the opportunity to create those moments on streaming will be more
come.
and more as you go along.
Nice, nice. But you think for you, the directors, will it help to know that maybe there's a life if that first day, like for you, Kiran, there was a life.
Lapata,
What a life it was.
Yeah, Lapata genuinely, sort of the first day, first show never happened.
Yeah.
It ran very long, but it actually sort of got a fillip after it came on Netflix. So that Netflix effect kind of helped it run for another 5 weeks in cinemas.
Wow.
So there is a case to be made for not having anything be competitive. I feel all these different platforms are, of course, competing for people's attention at the end of the day, whether it's a cinema or social media or, your streaming or gaming, whatever it is that people spend their time doing. But we can't look at it competitively. We want to be
feeding each other as well.
We're feeding each other as well. Yeah. There's overlaps and intersections that are making it live longer, like Sid said. Like you'll discover it somewhere else. You want to experience. People saw Lapata on Netflix and went out and watched it in cinemas again. So I think that there's a case to be made for everything. In fact, I feel it, at the end of the day, I know that the window is getting shorter and shorter between films and streaming. But I really feel like if we had enough cinemas and they were priced right and, we had enough access to cinemas, all of us want that experience as well. And that window would not matter. We would want to take the chance and go out and watch a film if it was easy enough to do. We could even release them on the same day because there are people, or say a pay-per-view, you release it same day as cinemas. Yeah. I genuinely feel there are people who can't perhaps go to the cinema to watch it and then are sitting waiting for it to come on on a streaming platform.
I think there's a strong argument to be made for considering how low our penetration of screens is and how screen dark so many pockets of our country are. If you're able to find a way to geo-block, the others and release your film on a pay-per-view in places where screens aren't available.
Screens are not available, absolutely.
There's definitely an argument to be made for that.
Yeah.
Apparently they do that with football. I didn't know that till recently, that when a game is happening in a particular town, then that town doesn't see it on TV. They are encouraged to go and see it in the
Go and see
stadium.
it live.
Buy your ticket.
Buy a ticket. And the rest of the world sees it live.
That's so
it's,
interesting.
It's nice. It's good to do that.
But
here it's almost the other way. Here what you're doing is, wherever there are screens, you don't give it on pay-per-view. But where there are no screens,
you don't give it.
Yeah, at least offer it there.
Which is a huge population actually.
Yeah. Raj, you were saying something?
What I was saying? No, all our lives, when we looked at movies, we always talk about that one scene. Remember that scene, that film, oh my God, this one, that one. we never say, do you know how much that made?
Correct.
So I always looked at it like that. Films have a great afterlife. Earlier it used to be to go and find the DVD, or like you're happy you found it. Now you go and watch it, or you have a clip floating from Wasipur and you watch it. I love it. So there's a huge afterlife for good films. So the rush, that the focus on the first weekend box office is really in a very myopic view. It's really more about the industry and the peripheries of industry who talk about, oh my God, how much did that make on the first weekend? The rest of the people, the 90% of the audience that's watching it, they're really watching it because they love something, or they go seek out and watch again. So the afterlife of a film has always been, for a good film, has always been there forever, and just that streaming makes it easier. So yes, I mean, we're all trying to get that first day box office because it's one of the prizes to get. But beyond that, it's still a good film. And so many films have the first weekend and it doesn't deserve it. It's like, we go and watch. How is the film? Yeah, but it made 500 crores. What happened? So yeah, so it's that. It's really making a good film.
Quality will endure.
Quality will endure always, has always endured and should endure. Of course, the big elephant that we'll talk another time would be the demolition that's coming up called AI. So
Yes, that is a whole other conversation.
every time we speak something and I'll be like, oh, this is cool.
Bring it back to AI.
What about
Will
that?
we be around in 2 years?
Yeah. Will we have the same
There'll
conversation?
be someone here like a hologram having this conversation. Right? Okay, I have two very quick questions and I want all of you to answer this. One is, what's your biggest concern right now? Sid.
Segueing from what
AI?
Raj said, he's given me a great cue. Well, it's an opportunity and a concern. So the opportunity is obviously to leverage it. I guess the concern is around where things will go. How is it going to impact the audience? And I'm really concerned about the audience. Is the audience going to embrace it, or are they going to want authenticity? Maybe that's wishful thinking. Maybe they'll just not care. And therefore, what is that going to do to the art forms? And are prompters going to be the next big thing? Those are all questions that we need to ask ourselves. And there are no easy answers. We don't know the answers. But it's definitely going to play out in the next 2 to 5 years.
Kiran?
I kind of feel like the worry is these sort of shifting sands, not just of technology, but also of the proliferation of media that we consume every day, and how that's impacting us as filmmakers, what we choose to make, what's working, whether there's enough cinemas. OTT sometimes expects you to release first. Films are not able to even find it in them to release the film before they go, it's become such a buyer's market when it comes to streaming. So really how there are so many bottlenecks in the filmmaking ecosystem, and especially for smaller filmmakers and independent filmmakers, documentary filmmakers, people who want to be making films. The industry is a very strange place, and AI has only just come and queered the pitch even further. If at all, that the many processes and workflows will be disrupted because of it. But even without that, I feel like there's no way forward. We're in sands that are shifting so much. I don't know, as filmmakers, what we see as the future of film.
Okay, that's very sad.
I know. I just feel like it is sad. I feel that. I do think that. Yeah. I think that there's a certain kind of commercial film that everybody is very confident to go out and make. But when it comes to, because I have so many filmmakers come to me with independent films that have been made at different stages of completion, or have come back from festivals and are not being bought by OTTs or cannot be released in cinemas. And I'm like, so the big films, the Allu Arjun, Prabhas, Shah Rukh Khan films will still find their audience. But what about that massive number of other kinds of films? What are we doing to make sure that, this is now still going to be a growing, vibrant place for filmmakers to be making films?
Yeah, because you do need all kinds.
You need all kinds.
Yeah.
They can't they'll all be films that have won something somewhere, but then just never find an audience in India. You don't even get sometimes picked up by OTT. We'll be struggling for that. So it's a strange time as well. I feel worried a little bit about that.
Sami?
I am a supreme optimist, so I really look forward to all these things happening. All this stuff that's going on, I am like
Loves
most
the
excited about it.
disruptions.
Yeah, I love all this chaos and all that. Two, three things that I think that we should focus on as an industry or other country or whatever is one is this thing about focus on quality. India, historically, because we've got such a large domestic market, has always produced bad quality stuff because we've got enough people here to see that bad quality stuff.
कोई तो देख ही लेगा.
कोई तो देख ही लेगा and
Yeah.
हो जाएगा. So that's why also we've not had the grand crossover moment, the big international moment, all of those things. So that focus on quality is something, if it happens, it will be good for this country. If indeed we have to get to 100 billion and orange economy and all of that, it's important for us to make good quality stuff. The second thing is that, there's this thing called creative destruction versus destructive creation. I think there's a lot of focus currently across the world, definitely here as well, of destructive creation. That
Define that.
destructive creation is that I have to exist and hence you can't.
Correct.
So as compared to let us,
Find a way.
creatively destroy everything and rebuild in a way. So that is a thing, it becomes a little bit of a 1-0 game. It's a bit of a binary that if this exists, this can't. So that's a thing that should not happen and hopefully it won't. Usually it never does. So because nature abhors a vacuum and a monopoly. So that's never going to happen. And the last thing, of course, which I've spoken to you once before, is that just to take segue from what Kiran was saying, is that I think the industry in general needs to have its own form of CSR called creative social responsibility, which means that for all the commercial stuff and for all the profiting that we all aspire to, there should be that creative social responsibility of all those films, of all the stuff that's being made must be put out there, must be shared. It's almost like saving the knowledge of the race. So, those are three things that can be done. Rest of it is business as usual. Disruptions will happen. It happens all the time. I think we are as an industry so concerned because of AI, because it's finally reached our doorstep. When this happened in the 18th century and put potters and artisans and weavers and tailors and carpenters out of work, we sort of just went along with it and took it. Now it's finally reached us, right? I call this the artificial industrialization of creativity. That's the AI. And it's bothered us a lot now. Now it's like, oh my God, are you telling me that I'm not the only bright guy in town?
How could that be? Raj.
I'll have to take one from each of them.
Creative
Destructive creation, right? Destructive creativity is something that I see rampant now, and a different meaning from what he said slightly, is that you make a film because you want to make it run, not about what it's saying. Unfortunately, we're a country that is influenced and there is a variety of audience. So you put out something out there, it could really influence, impact people a lot. So the responsibility within that is second hand now. It's not of importance, because if the film is working, that's what is important. And it's not just now, it's been there. How
You're saying about the messaging?
Messaging in the film. It's not like I'm putting great messages in our films. It's not about that. I don't even think we should be putting out messages in the first place. But my point is that what it's influencing people across the board, and then it's validating their action, saying that film, that's how it is. Or, you learn from films. That's our biggest entertainment, that's our biggest education, is films in India. So that is the biggest concern, always been a biggest concern, when you see some things that are so off but are still celebrated. And now you cannot argue with success. So once it's successful, then you really are on the losing side. And that is the one concern that will always exist. It'll continue to exist for me. That's the biggest concern. Otherwise, everything else, like you said, AI, we'll take it on. We'll figure out what happens. We'll just change the film as we watch it and say, like, I don't like this scene, so it'll change. So that's my concern. And the films, for example, all the films, we get to quite a few of them and saying, will you present it, will you finish it, and all that. The only people that have the power to give outlet to those films are really streaming. If they figure a way, like they say these days, that I won't take the film if it doesn't play in theaters, right? So that's something that's so odd, such an odd rule for their commercial purposes. But you have to take that punt a little, because there could be gems, there could be really exciting films, and I've seen really small films trending on top 5 and all that stuff sometimes. Always heartening to see a random film that is, on top 5. So they have the ability to actually have a department dedicated to looking at all these beautiful films from people and put a showcase them, because that's the one
That's
solution.
the creative social responsibility I
Creative,
talk about.
yes. That's like I said. He has great phrases, so I'm going to borrow those.
I'm telling everyone about that.
I feel there's a
We
case
should
for
do CSR.
CSR.
And in this CSR, I feel it should be sort of a decentralized kind of distribution system that we set up that almost bypasses the theatrical distribution. It goes directly to community viewing. And I think that we can do that for so many films, and that's going to be my, what did you call it? Creative social responsibility.
CSR.
And I feel like the industry should plug
Yeah,
into
some
that,
of the
because
filmmakers should get
these
together
films,
to.
and there's been like, not just in the last 5 years, but like 35 years of small films that have been amazing, but nobody's ever seen them.
Yeah.
Maybe you'll discover it on OTT, even if it's in the last 10, 20 years. But what about films made even before that, especially docs or animation?
I think the key is for you to find patronage for this rather than
Correct.
looking at it as it will be a commercial enterprise.
Yeah.
Because as soon as it becomes a commercial enterprise, it might not be sustainable.
That's right.
But if there's like Samir was saying, if it becomes part of, he's termed CSR differently, but it genuinely has got to be, I'm putting this money into it. I don't know if I'm going to get it back. It's a patronage that I'm doing as a service to new voices.
That's what
Right?
that's what I want to do.
That's-
and I feel we should all. I'm
in the
pitching to all of
in
you
the
that
late
this
90s,
CSR can be done, and I feel
we
it
should,
will
we
give
should.
a platform to so many
So
good
many.
films.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
actually, after that, they would perhaps be bought by.
Correct.
OTT, for instance,
You at
that's
least
what
get
they
them
did with
interested.
Humans in the Loop, and
Yeah.
they did 100 screenings across the country, and slowly the word of mouth built up, and now soon it will be on a streaming platform.
How lovely.
Yeah, so
That's
there
such
is
a great success
yeah,
story. It's such a
but-
lovely film.
Thank you.
Yeah.
But that's what we need to, I feel, do, because otherwise for filmmakers who are not part of that big mainstream, the way forward is very, very now becoming tiny, smaller and smaller,
Samir, you were saying something?
No, I was saying that this thing about helping new voices, in the late 90s, we used to do on Star something called Star Bestsellers.
Yes.
So that used to be, like, I've often also treated a lot of these good things to do as, diseases of affluence. So when you're doing very well, then you can do a lot of these other things as well. So
Right.
currently the business is also in a bit of a flux. So because it's in a bit of a strain economically, it doesn't give so much time for people to think about doing good.
Correct.
Right? So I think it's a combination of everyone doing well and then feeling benevolent.
Yeah, and it's true. It's true. It is true.
Why
Yeah,
such a
it's
bad word? Diseases of affluence.
Okay, chalo.
Benefits of affluence.
Benefits of
Affluence, of course.
benevolence.
So we will come up with a
with a
better
something
phrase.
so
The first time I heard about this was that in the 80s I heard that the people living in California were taking their dogs to the shrink. Right? Because the poodle was feeling a little depressed, so they were going to take it to the shrink. So at that time it was referred to as the disease of affluence.
Correct.
That you're so
that
rich
definitely
that your
is.
dog needs to see a shrink.
first world
Dog
problem.
whisperers
Real first world
and all.
problem.
Yeah.
Guys, this was so much fun, and I'm hoping that we get to do it again soon. And like I said, it's not an AI version of me and you, and it's all of us together talking about movies and loving storytelling, because that's what we're all here for. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.